you hear the term boomer, and now definitely it's probably used in a negative connotation. Now I don't subscribe to that, but I'm not here to argue that. I'm here to just talk about the term itself. Where does that come from? What is a boomer? Well, boomers are people that were born in 1946 to 1964. They're part of the baby boom generation. Now, baby boom. Well, to put it politely, yeah, there was a lot of babies that were being born during this time. The reason for that? Well, a lot of American soldiers came back home. They hadn't seen their wives and girlfriends in quite a while, and let's just say they celebrated and were reminded of that 9 months later. And during this time, America was going through a form of prosperity. So many families were able to raise children in relative comfort. So they didn't just stop with having one child, they had multiple children. Now, when you have multiple children, or even if you just have one child, you need space. And trying to find a good house in the city was very hard to do. And so many people started moving in these ventures called suburbs. Suburbs that we kind of take for granted now. So say for example, you were in Dallas and you have a growing family. Well, trying to find a house in Dallas, even back then, was fairly expensive, especially one that didn't have much space. And so you needed to go out into the suburbs to find, more sustainable living, have more space, be able to raise your family. And so people would move to Garland, people would move to Mesquite, people would move to DeSoto. They would move to these suburbs and they were able to raise their families in relative comfort. But when you move to the suburbs, you need transportation because there was no train line, there was no bus line connecting to the suburbs at the time. And so people would invest in cars. And when you invest in cars, like many Americans did during the 50s, well, you need roads in order to drive on them. These roads need to connect the suburbs to the main thoroughfares and to the cities. And so more roads were being created. And not just roads, interstate. The interstate system that was created in the 50s that we take for granted now, that was created due to this massive growth and expansion of Americans going into the suburbs, but yet still needed to reach the inner city. And so the growth of the highway system in the 50s was critical and is actually how many of us live to this day. Now, you have a lot of people that don't like this setup, but that is just how we grew, because suburbs is exactly what we use now. Go to any major city, go to Detroit, go to St. Louis, go to Chicago, go to Dallas, go to even definitely Los Angeles. Look what's all around them. There's a whole bunch of suburbs. So the suburbs that we got used to now, that is just take for granted now, well, all that began in the 1950s thanks to the baby boomers and the need for space.